gospel sensation. Motivation and inspiration for your eternal destination. Let's talk about it. It's the Mary W. Robinson
Welcome to the broadcast. I'm Larry W. Robinson. Thank you so very much for tuning into today's conversation. My guest today, the one and only Steve Hartfield. He's the author of this awesome book, The Seven Navigators, How to Pilot Your Life. The Seven Navigators, How to Pilot Your Life. Steve Hartfield, what's up, sir? It's been a long time.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing? I'm out here living my best life right now and trying to keep my edge up tight, trying to keep my hairline intact, you know.
I got you. Listen, I got that. I was looking mighty rough when we first were doing our prep, but I sure went got it together real fast so that we could be on tonight's conversation. Hey, do me a favor for someone that may not know you. Tell them who you are, what you do, and how to get in touch with you.
Okay, so I'm prior military. I was a veteran for the United States Air Force. I'm also a minister. I currently reside in Los Angeles, California. I've been a part of the Christian ministry for about 3 years now, and basically been working to become an ordained minister, which is, you're eligible to lead a church. And, besides all of that, I'm currently a film school student. I go to Los Angeles Film School in Hollywood, California. I'm looking to be a film editor. And so, when I'm not writing, when I'm not speaking, I'm always trying to work on post-production, trying to help create more films, promos for commercials and TV shows, and really just trying to get my experience in communications through visual mediums, written mediums, as well as audio mediums, just to get myself out there and, really just spread the gospel and enlighten people through the different types of lifestyles that you can seek and that's available to you once you decide to be able to look for more in your existence. So,
gotcha.
What's
well, it's all good. What's funny is I want to say maybe a week or so ago, we interviewed a guy from Los Angeles, California. His name is Brother Steve, and we talked about how to get your big break in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, because it's a lot, man. I'm telling you, dude. Like, people think that you're just supposed to walk up and just get discovered. Like, half the battle is just trying to get yourself out there and network. I mean, skills pay the bills, but it's all about who you know in that town. So if you're not out there really like pushing and like hustling yourself and selling your own brand, you're not gonna get to the front door.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
So we're talking today with Steve Hartfield. He's the author of this book, The Seven Navigators, How to Pilot Your Life. And I want to ask you a question straight out the gate. What inspired you to write this book, The Seven Navigators?
Yeah, man, I gotta tell you, the journey of my life coming up to this point, I think when I graduated college, I went to Prairie View A&M back in 2015. Once I left Prairie View, joined the military, somehow got to Los Angeles. I didn't even know that was an Air Force base in Los Angeles. But I remember my brother telling me at my graduation party, no matter what you do, you have to keep God involved in your life. He could see that I was a good boy, I was a good man, but I really just didn't have as far as the spiritual guidance I need to get to the next level. So I took that to heart. And as soon as I got to my first duty station in LA, I just decided to start going to church. And lo and behold, I ended up meeting my church mama, Gloria Dees, and she introduced me to New Mount Pleasant Baptist Church. It's in Inglewood over by Manchester and Gravella by Inglewood City Hall. Anyway, I think after a while, I started to realize that there was a natural pull for me to be able to like speak to people and do exhort to people, encourage people. And when I was really trying to figure out, okay, what can I do to be able to, build a business? I was doing network marketing for a while. I was involved from 2014 until 2019. I had a network marketing business. I was just trying to create a brand for myself, but it never gained traction. I just didn't understand why it wasn't able to gain traction. But when I actually spoke to people and I was writing poetry at the time, it seemed that the words would come alive, and people would always come back and tell me how much they loved my talk or they loved my presentation. So I went to a business development seminar. This is with Success Resources America. This was in December of 2018. And when I went, there was a gentleman named Raymond Aaron. He was basically a co-author for the Chicken Soup for the Soul series with Jack Canfield. And he helped make the book Chicken Soup for the Canadian Soul. When he made the book, he did a 90-minute seminar on how to build your own brand. And it really connected with me because I thought to myself, well, if I'm gonna bet on myself, I think branding is going to be critical. And when he started suggesting that you write a book in order to be able to extend your brand, I think that's when it started to click for me. I was telling myself, well, if I have an entrepreneurial spirit and if I have the desire to speak to people and encourage people, then I have to really think about my own brand. And so I thought about, a book. That's really wasn't I guess, my life goal, but it resonated with me. Just like the ministry resonated with me, writing a book resonated with me because I told myself, if I can't encourage people every day, what can I give people that they can take home and still make the same impact as if I was in front of them? And I think when I did a sermon on Isaiah 11, I was talking about the seven spirits of God. And I talk about the coming of the Messiah, of how you should spread your wings as eagles to be able to, take off from, a comfort of your household, from the comfort of your parents' guidance, so you can become your own man or own woman. And that's when it hit me. I was thinking to myself, well, in my fraternity, I was known as a navigator. And I talked to myself, I was like, well, maybe if there was a way where I can like create the seven spirits of God in a way that can communicate to everybody from different religions, different backgrounds, whether you just begun your spiritual journey or you've been in it for 30 years in the game. How can I communicate the principles of discipleship to people? And I think that's where the Seven Navigators came about, is just how to give people the principles of spirituality and religion, but also let them know that, you have to be patient with yourself. You don't have to think of life as so regimented. You have to be able to allow yourself room for growth. And I think when the navigators came about, it's all about giving people the principles of leadership, the principles of discipleship. You don't have to be a Christian to follow the navigators, but you do have to follow certain principles in order to give yourself the opportunities for growth, to give yourself the tests and trials to be able to become a better person. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter really what you stand for, as long as you can provide a value to yourself and a value for other people. How many people are better off because you lived? And the navigators is a way to be able to kind of break it down at such a simple level to where it doesn't have to be so convoluted and complex for you to follow. It can be over maybe a span of a lifetime, but the simple lessons have to be in bite-sized pieces, because everybody that, as far as Christians are concerned, everybody that's getting turned off by religion right now, they're getting turned off by a traditional model of teaching. The word of the Bible stays the same. I feel like the word of religion stays the same. It never changes. The truth will never change for people. But the thing is, you have to be able to adjust it for a new generation. Now
Well,
we need warriors.
let
Go
me
ahead.
ask you, you talk about spirituality, and of course you talk about religion. In your opinion, what's the difference between spirituality and religion?
It's all in a question. And when I talk about a question, traditionally we see religion as a closed door where, these are the rules of the game and this is how you should follow them. And unfortunately, we see the benefits of following religion and we see the consequences. A lot of time people use religion in ways to be able to, put our ancestors in slavery, to be able to send us false prophets and false messages that will give us, a teaching that will put us on a wrong path. Even though we have good intentions, we follow leaders that give us these teachings and they try to, mix them up in their own special way. Now, spirituality is more of an exploration that you have to be able to really see within yourself and what resonates with your spirit. And I tell people that when religion and spirituality intersect is the point to where you have to have the intelligence enough to explore your own interests, but also maintain your foundation. You have to understand that a lot of times people try to pull us away from what we were trained to think and trained to do. But a lot of times you have to be intelligent enough in yourself that you can explore different things to make yourself the best version of yourself, but you don't want to waver and become a drifter. I see a lot of people nowadays where they try to call themselves like yogis or spiritual people of influence, but they tend to go in so many different directions that they seem to get lost in the journey. Now, religion, personally, as a Christian minister, I identify with the story of Jesus Christ, that I identify with the story of sacrifice, of love, to be able to give to yourself when other people might not do the same thing. But I also believe that, there are principles that every religion shares, and that, as human beings of this world, we try so much to separate ourselves based on religion, denomination, section. We try to make ourselves exclusive. Just like, if you have a Baptist or a Catholic or a Methodist, we try to make ourselves seem so exclusive, but we have to understand that what's an overarching principle that we all share? It's love. Is to be able to, give wisdom unto others, to be able to, do more of your talents and treasures and give more to the people that deserve it. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that religion tends to get stuck in a lot of ritual, just like the Pharisees. And once we get caught up in the ritualistic nature of religion, we kind of lose focus on what it really means to be not just a person of God, but a person of the universe. What it really means to be that kind of person, because when you try to ask yourself, what else is out there for me? You have to know you are made of God material. Now, God isn't limited. So that means you shouldn't be limited in the way that you think, but you have to think about how you are doing the things you're doing. When you live with a life of intention, you have to live it to build the kingdom. Now, whether it's the kingdom of God in your sense, whether it's the universe, whether it's the world, whatever you believe in, you do your daily pursuits to benefit the world around you. And when you benefit the world around you, then you'll understand that you start living the principles of not just religion, but spirituality as well. You create an energy around yourself. And, there's a lot of times where people neglect to think that even Jesus had an aura around himself, that the things that he did attracted people. Now, we talk about the law of attraction for sometimes, we talk about infinite intelligence, but all of these, unique things share the same characteristics. You're doing something that draws people to you. And when you draw people to you, you have to let them know that you are of quality and that you will leave them better than how you found them. So, you know, I just feel like, especially, there's a generational gap as well, where a lot of generations, in the mid to late 1900s, they try to stick with religion as if, it's just a one line straight path. And the way I want to think of it as is that we're all trying to get to the same destination, but do you want to get there by a bus, a plane, a train, a car? Do you want to walk? It's about the journey to get there. And when you're thinking about the journey to get there, I don't care what you're on, like what path you're on, but are you on the path to make the best version of yourself? Are you on the path to make the world a better place? Are you on the path to make people better because you lived your life?
That's
So,
good. Talking today with Steve Hartfield.
how you
He's the
doing?
author of this book. Let's see if I can get it on the screen here. The Seven Navigators. There it is. Uh, Award-winning author. I love that. How to Pilot Your Life is the subtitle of the book, and has a foreword by Raymond Aaron, who's also a best-selling author. Thank you so
Yeah.
very much for tuning in to the conversation. If you want to be acknowledged for tuning in to today's conversation, do me a favor and make a comment in the comment section, and we'll pull you into the conversation. So Steve, someone wants to tell you a little message. Let's see if we can get them on the screen. Can you see that?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm Stella. Yeah, man.
Yeah. All
She's like
right.
she's a puppet master. She's always got her hands in something. She's
Right.
always moving and shaking.
I love it though. I love it. All right. So thank you so very much for tuning into the conversation. Of course, if you would like to be acknowledged in the conversation, go ahead and she put your whole government. Watch this.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I mean, see. Let me tell you. See, a lot of people. Yeah. Ever since I was younger, everybody called me Stephen. So I'm kind of like, oh, you got to get off. You got to find a way to get around that. So I say, just call me Steve. So
Got you.
I use Steve as like my stage name, as my author name, but of course Stephen is like the family. That's my kinfolk. They know me as Stephen. Stevie.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. All
Yeah.
right. Well, the book is exciting. I do have another question. How do you expect people to receive your message in this politically correct environment?
Well, I would expect people to really receive it slowly. And when I say receive it slowly, the book is meant to force you to think critically. For a lot of people that try to consume information, a lot of people are quick to respond and really slow to really take information in and let it marinate. A lot of times we tend to take information in and we try to spew it out in our own words, and we don't understand that the way that we perceive the world may not be as politically correct as we think it is. So I tell a lot of people you have to learn how to use a lot of tact, and you have to learn how to use a lot of emotional intelligence. And when you're receiving the information from this book, it's all about being able to ask yourself these questions like, how do I feel about the information I'm given? um, there was Aristotle. He talks about the mark of true intelligence is the ability to take information in and not let it change your beliefs and mindset. And so it's all about not letting folks shake your tree. And I think the big thing is that when you are reading and understanding information, you have to be able to think about the way that you think. You have to really understand that information isn't meant to change the way you think and feel about the world or life. It's just meant to kind of get you to start thinking about different things. And, everybody is so tense about being offended and being offensive that we're scared to be able to voice our opinions. And I like to tell people that it's all in how you communicate. Communication is your key tool in order to grow yourself and your brand. And there's always a proper way of saying how you feel. But if you limit yourself based on what you know today, then you're going to put yourself in a rabbit hole, in a pitfall. So that's why it's important to always consume knowledge. It's always important to always learn, because there's always somebody out there that has said what you want to say. You just have to find them. You have to figure out what's the best way to voice your opinions so that you can sound agreeable and that you don't seem offensive to other people from different races, religions, nationalities. It's all about, I think the sandwich method is a good idea to use. Whenever I was in the Toastmasters International for a few years, and we always use the sandwich method. And so now when I have dialogue with people from different religions, backgrounds, nationalities, even different political interests, I always try to, acknowledge that, you're right for the way that you feel, that, you make a great point. And when you let people know that you validate the way they think, then you can be able to allow them to take in what you have to say. But if you
Mhm.
always try to meet other people with a confrontational attitude and you always try to tell people, well, I'm going to shove my ideas down your throat and I'm going to make you learn, then you're not going to attract people to you. It's all about being able to let people know, you got here for a purpose. Like I'm in front of you, Larry, for a reason. And that I can acknowledge that the way that you think and feel is appropriate, and that I have to be able to know that I can learn something from you. And that as long as I know that I can learn something from you, then we can have an open dialogue without having to worry about our ideas clashing. It's all about being able to tell people when you meet somebody that says something you don't like, you have to kind of take your mind away from the situation and say, okay, why do I react the way they say that thing? Why do I react on how they feel? And when you can acknowledge that, hey, I have a lot of emotional intelligence I need to gain from it, then you can say, okay, you know what? You make a good point. You make a great point to where, you know what? I like the way that you think. I might not agree with how you think, but I acknowledge that, whatever combination of knowledge and experience got you here, you're able to get by and make the best decisions on what you've went through. And I'm able to do the same thing. But we have to be able to be more intelligent than that and acknowledge each other's presence, acknowledge your ideas, and just realize that, hey, if you're here, if you're still alive right now, I got something to learn from you. And if I can still
Mhm.
learn from you, you can still learn from me. But and I'll tell you this other thing before I end the question, in the answer, that if they don't know you, you don't take it personal. If they don't know me and my family, they don't know where I came from and how I was raised, you can't take it personal, because when you see other people and how they feel, they're just projecting, maybe some of their stresses, some of their, negative toxic relationships onto you. And you can't really take it to heart because they don't know who I am as a man. So I can't really take them to where, okay, they are trying to offend me. I mean, they can try, but that's where, especially being black in America, that's a sidebar. Being black in America, you have to have a soft heart and tough skin. And that's just
That's
how
true.
it is in our society right now. This country is built upon a European standard of living. And when I say European, I'm talking about, the ideas that this country was founded upon to be able to create a utopia for people that came from Europe. Now, when Africans came from Europe, when indigenous species came or were already here, they created a system that wasn't designed for us. So we have to understand that within this system, we have to be able to know that it was not created for us. And we can realize it's not created for us, then we have to know that there will be people in this society that don't feel the way that we feel because they think that life should revolve around their ideals, not based on indigenous ideas, not based on African ideals. And we have to be able to be tough enough to know that in order to make in this country, you got to play some kind of game. You have to be able to master the art of communication so you can be able to put yourself in a position of success and be able to communicate with different people, because not everybody is going to be culturally educated like you are. And once you realize that education is dependent upon how much you are motivated, your desire, that education may vary. From one person might just be starting. From you, Larry, you might be so ahead of the game where you wearing that shiki on the podcast.
Come
Like,
on.
but everybody is not there yet. And when you understand that people are not culturally educated yet, and that in this politically correct environment that they expect everybody to go at their whims, then you have
Mhm.
to raise your game up and you have to understand that communication is your key to speak to that person. You acknowledge that, hey, you might not learn everything that I've learned. You might not have experienced everything I've experienced, but I do acknowledge that I can learn from you and that I have an open mind to be able to take what you have to say in, but I'm not going to let it shake my tree. I can't
Yeah.
let what anybody else say really shake the way I believe and how I believe, because that's what got me here. Now, I can't stop there. I can't rest on my laurels, but what I can do is I can stick with my foundation. And my foundation is, Christian manhood. And as long as I can stick with Christian manhood, then I can expand my ideas out further to reach bigger audiences. But when people ask me, the Seven Navigator, is it meant for a Christian audience? It's meant for a Christian audience, but it's meant for Muslims, Buddhists, it's meant for Hindus, it's meant for people of all religions because they have principles that we all share. If I was going to throw scripture in there, I might turn people off, but that's none of my concern. But my goal is to be able to reach not just religions, but generations,
Oh, that's good.
nationalities. We
Mhm.
have to be able to figure out a way of how to reach out to not just people in our religions, but we have to figure out how to reach out to generations after us. How do we reach out to Gen Z? How do we do that? If they're not going to church, if they're not involved in spiritual practices, how can we reach out to them? You have to break it down at a simple level to where they can get it and get them to start thinking. That's what it's about. I'm not trying to lecture nobody, but it's about asking you questions like, what are some of your talents and abilities that you have that other people that say that you are good at? And once you start following those paths, then you can start seeing opportunities come up for you. You can start seeing people that will, give you encouragement. And you will start to understand that there are going to be people in the world that may not have your best interest in mind. But how do you find out who those people are? How do you figure it out? I mean, it's not hard, but with social media, it has us so distracted and so inert in a fabricated society, in a fabricated existence, that we refuse to see the person in front of us. And especially now with COVID-19, we have to really be conscious and aware of personal space and surroundings. So how can we reach people that have not just, a mental barrier against us, but now it's going to be a health barrier. So we have to figure out new ways to reach the people. And if everybody's going to be on their phones and computers, we have to be able to learn how to communicate effectively so that we can reach audiences, not just in our same town and country, but across the world. But that takes a lot of desire on your part to educate yourself, to read books, to watch seminars and motivational videos, to go outside your comfort zone, and to allow yourself to be open-minded enough so that you can take in new information, to expose yourself to new things without having to worry about being defensive. You know, and that's what I guess the point I'm trying to make is that uh, if you're going to worry every day about how people feel, you will never be successful. But you have to learn how to effectively communicate in order to be successful. And once you learn how to communicate, then you can say whatever you want, but you have to find the words to say to do it. And that's not hard, but you have to be open-minded to read more and to educate yourself more and to realize and take those extra few seconds to put your words together effectively. Because once you put your words together effectively, there's nobody on this earth that can stop you. But if you try to, shortcut yourself, that's when you start running to pitfalls, because you start to spew out not the thing that you are believing in, but the things that your mom, your dad, your family taught you
Mhm.
that might not be the correct way to communicate. It might not be the correct way of living, but we don't know that. You don't know what you don't know. So we have to unlearn a lot of our generational ideas and mindsets that may not have been beneficial for us now, that may have worked, back in 1975. But we just
Wait
have
a
to.
minute, now that's my birth year.
Oh, that's your birthday. Oh well, well,
Hey, but
happy
you know what, I do
1965.
want to say this. You talked about in terms of teaching and especially like from a Christian perspective. I believe that the church has been so busy, and I heard another preacher say this, but has been so busy teaching the person of Jesus that they
Yes.
lack the principles of Jesus, teaching the principles of Jesus. Even Jesus came to teach
Yeah.
the principles of Jesus. So,
Come on now. You have to live the book of Acts. If you're not
mhm.
willing to live the book of Acts, then you're missing the point. Because when disciples went out to be able to speak the gospel, sorry, they had to experience the teachings. You can't just
Mhm.
talk to people and expect them to take in what you have to say. You have to experience the hatred that you will see in the world. You have to experience the journey that Jesus went through. And if you're not willing to experience the journey, then everything that I say is out of context. I can't talk and teach anything that I haven't went through myself. And that's just, basic ministry 101, basic
Right.
preaching 101.
Right.
I can't get up there and talk about, wife and kids, because I'm not married. I don't have a child. But what I can speak about is how to put yourself in a position to be more prayerful, how to put yourself in a position to talk to God a little more, how to find God when you feel like God is not there. I can tell
Mhm.
you about that because I've been through that before. But a lot of people that they feel that, Jesus was such an empowering figure that we always have to talk about his character, not about what he done and taught, but we talk about, okay, he was everybody has the same idea of Jesus, that he's a loving man, that he has long brown hair, and that he rode it on a donkey, on Palm Sunday. I mean, it's more than that. Like,
Hmm.
I would charge you to be able to look into what kind of man Jesus was growing up. you know Ask yourself the questions of what Jesus had to do from the time that he was under the household of Joseph and Mary until he went out on his own when he left Jerusalem. I would tell you, what kind of qualities would you have in order to live a life that he did. You have to have a lot of patience, but you have to have a lot of tenacity. You have to be able to just be, I'll say, just crazy enough, have the reckless abandon to following faith, but you also have to have the discernment and awareness so you can be able to see what's going on around you. Because you have, I know preachers talk about it a lot, that, they always try to preach about, what kind of man Jesus did and what he, like, all the things that he did. But you don't know how to apply today's society. How do you apply the ideas and characteristics of Jesus in 2020? Because the truth will stay the same, like we already said, but you have to be able to tweak it, because now you have technology, you have things that they always existed, but now we have to be able to really adjust accordingly to our new generation. So, and a lot of people, they run in circles. I mean, I feel like there are a lot of solutions out there for us, but we're so caught up in the money grab of tithes and offerings. We're so caught up in the money grab of having a social club, of a fashion contest, that we miss the point that we have an opportunity to be able to change the actual fabric of our community. But if we trying to separate ourselves based on material possession, then we'll never get there. And
Well,
you know,
this pandemic has us at a place where even when we come back to church, we're going to have a different mindset, different
yeah.
models, just a whole makeover as of how we think and do church. We're talking with Steve Hartfield. He is the author of this incredible book, The Seven Navigators: How to Pilot Your Life. He's an award-winning author, and the book is available on Amazon and everywhere that you can find great books today. Steve, sir, we're
Yeah,
near the
yeah.
end of our conversation, and so real briefly, I'd like for you to tell our listening audience. Oh, but before we do that, somebody wants to give you a message, sir. So we'll let
Okay.
them give you a message here. She says, "Nope, you'll
Uh,
always be
uh,
Stevie." Kay Hart, thank you so very much for tuning in to today's conversation. Paula Singer, she's a songwriter, is tuned in to the conversation as
Thank you.
well. In our final moments together, go ahead and tell us how can we apply the seven navigators or the knowledge of the seven navigators to our lives?
It's all about thinking about the way that you think. The Seven Navigators talks about wisdom, knowledge, understanding, counsel, might, the spirit of your creator, and the fear of your creator. And when you look at these principles on how to live your life, think about the way that you think about the world. Think about, how do I receive information, and how do I react to things that people say to me? And when you talk about, in order to acquire knowledge and wisdom, you have to have understanding. And, it's all about taking in and just think about, the questions that you ask yourself in, your meditations. When, you're by yourself, you're alone, just ask yourself, why do I think about drama? Why do I always think about chaos? Why do I always think about, just this person or that person that's doing me wrong? When you shift your mind and start thinking about, okay, what can I do to get myself to the next level? What can I do to use my talents? What talents do I have? Who can I learn from about X, Y, or Z? Or you can say, how can I communicate with God more? And I would tell you right now, it's not hard to find. It's always somebody that's willing to help you. If you don't, know the scripture, you can always go on the internet. But it starts with thinking about the way that you think. Napoleon Hill in the book Think and Grow Rich, he talks about how thoughts are things. That thoughts are as real as your cell phone, as real as your computer. But it starts with when you read the book, think about how you think about the information. Like, does this offend me? Is this book something that I can really, get behind? Or is this book something that I really don't want to read right now? You have to really start thinking about these kind of things. And the more that you think about the way that you think, then you'll start asking yourself more questions that will unpack a lot of your mindset and experiences. And you open your mind to new things, expose yourself to new information, then the navigators are going to be able to help you guide yourself, not just from acquiring knowledge, but wisdom is something that it takes understand. Everything is connected together. And the last thing I'll tell you is that you have to pray for more wisdom. You have to pray for knowledge. I think about King Solomon. He prayed for wisdom from God. He didn't pray for cars. He didn't pray for money. He didn't pray for women, or he didn't pray for riches or cattle. He prayed for wisdom. So if there's one thing I can tell you, is that you want to pray to God for more wisdom, pray to God for more knowledge, pray to him for more understanding, pray to God to, have more respect and fear of him, pray to God to have more love in your heart. Because when you pray for those principles and not just pray for, the next house or the next car or money, then you can be able to open yourself up to more spiritual discernment and be able to make your decision making a little bit better. Because once you're able to change the way you see the world, then you can change your decisions, you can change your actions, you can change your beliefs, and you can change your life.
Perfect. Steve Hartfield, the book is titled The Seven Navigators, How to Pilot Your Life. It's available at Amazon and everywhere you purchase great books. Get your copy today. Steve Hartfield, thank you so very much for being a guest on the broadcast today.
Hey, thanks, Larry. I appreciate you having me. I definitely do. Thank God bless you, man.
Bless you, sir. All right, for more conversations like this, follow us on Facebook. Just search my full name, Larry W. Robinson. Or, of course, go to my official website at larrywrobinson.com. Again, thanks for tuning into the conversation. Do me a favor, like and share this conversation. Like and share the conversation with someone today. Bless you.
It's the Larry W. Robinson Show. Talking inspirations, spotlighting gospel sensation. Motivation and inspiration for your eternal destination.